Belmont Stakes 2024. It is the handicapping show. And of course, the Belmont Stakes going to be at Saratoga in 2024. It is going to be a mile and a quarter. The test of champions is going to be at Saratoga, and excitement building in New York, upstate New York, as Saratoga has the Belmont Racing Festival starting on Thursday, going all the way through Sunday. Of course, Sunday is New York Showcase Day. Should be an exciting race of weekends. And let's take a look all the way through the Belmont Stakes. Tonight, we're going to be doing the Belmont Stakes handicapping show. Of course, the Belmont Stakes is going to be on Saturday, June the 8th. It's going to be a mile and a quarter, and it's going to be at Saratoga this year. Make sure to get your questions in and your comments in. Also, where are you watching and listening from tonight for the Belmont Stakes handicapping show? First off, now that we've got the particulars out of the way, let's take a look at the field. Starting off, it did draw 10 horses. They drew the field on Monday. We've got the Preakness winner, Seize the Gray. He is going to be coming out of the one post. Resilience, the Wood Memorial winner. He is going to be a post position number 2. Mystic Dan, the Kentucky Derby winner at 18-1, is post position number 3. The Wine Steward, runner-up finishes in both his 2024 starts. He goes for trainer Mike Maker. He is out of post position number 4. Antiquarian, one of 3 horses for trainer Todd Pletcher. He is sending out also Protective, the maiden, and Mindframe, an impressive allowance winner. Dornock, the winner of the Remsen Stakes last year. Also, Dornock winning the Fountain of Youth Stakes at Gulfstream Park. Protective, a maiden. He comes into this race off a 3rd place finish in the Peter Pan. Honor Marie ran in the Kentucky Derby, started out in dead last, passed half the field down the lane, and Honor Marie's been training since the Kentucky Derby for the Belmont Stakes. Meanwhile, you've got Sierra Leone, the 9-5 race favorite, and then Mindframe, 2 for 2 in 2024, did not race as a juvenile. So the Belmont Stakes 2024, let's take a look at some of the handicapping changes that have happened. If you have not been following along, if you're new to the Belmont Stakes. Now, the major jockey changes we have, Flavian Pratt will be on Sierra Leone. He's going to replace Tyler Gaffleone, who has ridden Sierra Leone in all of his previous efforts. Meanwhile, Honor Marie, his jockey, got injured at Delaware Park in a morning workout. So Florent Giroux is going to be a new jockey on Honor Marie as a change for the Belmont Stakes. Other changes, we've got Manny Franco on the Wine Steward because Luis Saez is going to be riding another horse in the race. And then also we've got Tyler Gaffleone. Since he was taken off his horse, Sierra Leone, he is now going to ride Protective. Last 2 times out, Protective has been ridden by Irad Ortiz, and Irad Ortiz is now going to be going to the 10-horse Mindframe here in the Belmont Stakes. So that's a look at some of the changes. Let's get you caught up on some of the recent workouts and have horses trained up to this race. Starting off, we've got Seize the Gray. Here's his only workout at Churchill Downs after winning the Preakness Stakes. Meanwhile, you've got Antiquarian. He schooled today at Saratoga, going into the starting gate, getting some practice, going into that gate, getting ready for the Belmont Stakes 2024. Here's Antiquarian, a nice looking horse for trainer Todd Pletcher. Of course, he won the Peter Pan Stakes last time out. Meanwhile, you've got Mindframe. He won an allowance race by 7 lengths at Churchill Downs. This was Kentucky Derby Day. He was bet down early on in the card. Of course, his first time around 2 turns. Mindframe winning that race. He's by constitution, trained by trainer Todd Pletcher. Here's Mindframe at Gulfstream Park. This is on Florida Derby Day. He is now 2 for 2. He won this race by 13 lengths, and Mindframe looking impressive in both of his starts. The other notes, here's Dornock, a morning workout at after the Kentucky Derby at Saratoga, getting ready for the Belmont Stakes. And of course, Dornock won the Remsen Stakes last year. And Mystic Dan, the Preakness runner-up, Kentucky Derby winner. Here he is galloping yesterday, seems to be holding form at Saratoga. Trainer Ken McPeak says all systems are go for Mystic Dan getting ready for the Belmont Stakes. So we're going to take a look. We've got some new shooters in the race. We've got Mindframe 2 for 2, Antiquarian, the Peter Pan winner, the Wine Steward, runner-up finish in the Peter Pan behind Antiquarian, and then Protective, the third place finisher in the Peter Pan. He's still a maiden after 4 lifetime races. Now let's take a look at the contenders one by one. If you have any questions or comments, make sure to get them in here. Seize the Gray, you know, he comes into this race. Some of the handicapping things that I highlighted, he did go wire stakes. Now, you may not realize it, but he is 2 for 2 at Saratoga. He did win a maiden special weight race at 6.5 furlongs. That was over Dornock in that race. He's by Arrogate. I still think there's a chance that he's improving a little bit. I think he can get better. Of course, last year, the Belmont Stakes was won by Arrogate progeny as well. And we'll see if they can make it 2 Belmonts in a row for sons of Arrogate. The only question is he ran March 23rd, his first race in a stakes race. Then he went to the Bluegrass Stakes. Then he went to Churchill Downs for the Pat Day Mile. Then he turned around on 14 days rest, won the Preakness, and then came back now for the Belmont Stakes. So where are you watching and listening from tonight? And Rodney says, see, Resilience and Sierra Leone, all he needs. One horse will be favored, the other one at 10-1. Yeah, I'm kind of liking Resilience's chances to hit the board here. I think his Derby, he made a nice mid-race move. And I think 2 workouts last week, he didn't run in the Preakness. He's got 35 days off. I think he's got a little bit of a freshening, just like Sierra Leone. So Seize the Gray, definitely. Overall, you know, 5 races in 11 weeks. He's got a faster pace in the Belmont Stakes, and he did draw inside the other speed. You know, the Pat Day Mile was a fast pace. He proved he can come a little bit off the pace in that race. So Seize the Gray, a contender here in the Belmont Stakes. Drawing the second post position is Resilience, of course, carrying 126 pounds. He did add blinkers for the Wood Memorial. He also used them in the Kentucky Derby. Remember, he had the 18th post position in that race. He was wide down the backstretch, made a nice move, got all the way up to second place going into the stretch with a quarter of a mile to go. Kind of faded late in that race. But remember, the pace was fast and contested in the Kentucky Derby. So Resilience, we'll find out if he can go 1.25 miles. You know, there's not too many other races for 10 furlongs at this time of the year. You know, you got the Midsummer Derbies. We've got the Iowa Derby, the Ohio Derby, the Indiana Derby. But if Resilience, the connections from New York, wanted to maybe try the Jim Dandy or the Travers Stakes, you kind of got to see what they got here. Wicked Felina says, I'd like to see success among the Arrogate legacy holders. His career was too short. And yeah, so Arrogate, of course, passed away. He won the Pegasus World Cup. He won the Dubai race, of course, after the slow start. And he won the Travers Stakes with a monster effort as a 3-year-old, ran some big races, and then kind of finished off with a couple of subpar efforts for Arrogate. Now, Resilience by Into Mischief, you know, still some questions. He's had a couple of horses win the Kentucky Derby, but Authentic won it when the Derby was in September. And we've got Siggy Mendoza, the venerable Siggy Mendoza. Antiquarian has the right running style. He's moving in the right direction, and distance should not be an issue since he is a son of Preservationist. Of course, Preservationist ran some big races in New York. Resilience by Into Mischief out of a Smart Strike mare. I think that should indicate some stamina influences in the pedigree for Resilience. Now, who is going to have the half-mile pole leader? I think a lot of people think it could be Mindframe, and also some people thinking the Wine Steward. Of course, the Wine Steward's won all 3 of his races at 6 furlongs or 5 furlongs. He's 0 for 3 in 2-turn races. Meanwhile, Antiquarian, do you think he maybe could have the lead at the half-mile pole? As Antiquarian did show some speed his first race out at Gulfstream Park. He made a mid-race move in the Louisiana Derby, and he kind of ranged up on the leaders, but I don't think he needs the lead at the half-mile pole. Antiquarian getting a 7 on the sheets for his big effort in the Peter Pan. Dean says Mindframe could be a special horse. Now we're going to be going through all the contenders. Of course, Mindframe with 2 big wins, a 13-length win, also a 7-length win. And Jose says he's going with Seize the Gray. He can go the distance. A little bit of a versatility with Seize the Gray. I agree with you, Jose. He doesn't need the lead. He came off the pace in the Pat Day Mile, made a mid-race move in the Jeff Ruby Stakes, and he's capable of coming off the pace. You know, I'm going to look at the pace in a few minutes here, but I do see the half-mile leader on my projection is going to be Mindframe. He's got natural speed. I think he's just faster than some of these horses as we stretch out here to 1.25 miles. He did draw the 10th post position. Will he maybe lay a little bit off? Now, post position number 3 is going to be Mystic Dan. Of course, Mystic Dan, your Kentucky Derby winner. That was at 18-1. He did it out of the 3 post position. I did highlight some comments for Mystic Dan. Now, if you look at, Daily Racing Form on their formulator past performances indicates races that are good for closers with a C. So Mystic Dan ran in some good races that were beneficial to closers on the Southwest Stakes. He came from behind. He came from behind in the Kentucky Derby that favored closers. And those are probably his 2 better efforts. The Preakness Stakes wasn't kind to closers. Mystic Dan, I thought he had a good trip. He saved ground on the inside. He kind of ranged up. And then when he was asked the question down the stretch, Seize the Gray, he just kind of pulled away. And Mystic Dan, he regressed from a 100 speed figure on the buyer scale to a 97. He did save ground in both races. Overall, he's still by golden cents. So I'm just not sure long term he's going to be a 10 furlong horse consistently at 10 furlongs. Now, Mystic Dan, overall, he won the Kentucky Derby. He lacked that Preakness late kick. He has had 3 hard races in a row. He ran hard, I thought, in the Arkansas Derby. Then he ran hard in the Kentucky Derby, hard in the Preakness Stakes. Kind of hard to keep on wheeling out those 100 buyer speed figures, especially at 1.25 miles distance. So I do expect Mystic Dan, he probably can run that 97 again. I'm just not sure he can get that 100 to 101 speed figure. Now, the Wine Steward was disappointing in the Peter Pan. He was kind of the big favorite that day, had the lead, and then Antiquarian really just ran him down, went from a 3-wide trip, came from off the pace, and the fractions were kind of soft that day for the Wine Steward. Now, Mindframe, the first time at the distance, no Lasix, more weight. Yeah, those are some of the big issues facing Mindframe. He's not only got to go up in class to a grade 1, he's got to go 1.25 miles. He's got to carry more weight. He's only got 2 races to get ready for the Belmont Stakes. But as Dean says, he's got a 113 Horse Racing Nation leading speed figure. He's got a 103 buyer speed figure in his debut. So definitely some talent for Mindframe as we look to the Belmont Stakes. Now, here is the way I kind of see the pace of the race. Let me know if you see something different. I think Mindframe out of that 10th post position, I think he is going to be leading at the 6 furlong mark. Now, I think there's 3 horses that can press the pace. I think you've got Resilience, you've got Antiquarian, and you've got the Wine Steward. Now, the Wine Steward has been up on the pace in some of his sprint races, and he did show some speed, making a big move early on in the Lexington Stakes at Keeneland, but the track was kind of playing to speed that day, and he got outrun late in that final 16th of a mile. Now, Antiquarian showed speed in his debut race at Gulfstream Park, was run down late by a good horse. Then he went wire to wire at the fairgrounds in his maiden breaker. Now, Resilience used to show speed. I think he's going to sit a few lengths off the pace here in the Belmont Stakes. Sees the Gray is going to come a little bit off the pace like he did in the Pat Day Mile, like he did in the Turfway Park race. Then you've got Protective, who's still a maiden. Dornock, his best races last year were on the front end. I just don't think he has the raw speed. Even in those races on the front end last year, he didn't set fast fractions. The maiden race at Keeneland was only a 112 time form pace rating. The Monmouth race was only a 97 pace rating for 6 furlongs. Meanwhile, Mystic Dan for 6 furlongs ran a 134 pace rating. Resilience ran a 118 in the Wood Memorial, and Sees the Gray with a 134 in the Preakness Stakes. I think Sierra Leone is the closer in this race. Now, Roger from Arcade, he's listening in New York. He likes Sierra Leone and Mindframe in the Exacta, and Sees the Gray might hurt him. Yeah, you do got to respect Sees the Gray's overall talent level. He had a nice win at Oaklawn Park, beat some good horses in that allowance race, his first race of the year, and he did go wire to wire in the slop at Saratoga. He also went wire to wire in the Pimlico race, the Preakness race at Saratoga. So he does like the slop. I do think he can put in a big effort if we do get a little bit of rain on Saturday afternoon. Now, for Rodney, Mindframe, a complete toss. And, I think you kind of got to go one way or the other with Mindframe. Mindframe probably going to be 7-2, going to be bet down in the exactas and daily doubles. He's got a big speed figure. He's trained by Todd Pletcher, who has won the Belmont Stakes 4 times. So that's a look overall at the pace of the Belmont Stakes. Now let's take a look at the Wine Steward. The Wine Steward, he does get a jockey change. Louis Saez rode him 4 of the first 6 races. Now he does go back to Manny Franco, who won with him last year in the Funny Side Stakes. Meanwhile, the Wine Steward, by Vino Rosso, who kind of developed late, who's by Curlin. He's a New York bred. His 3 best races were all sprints. He kind of faded a little bit the last 2 races, couldn't finish a deal off in the Lexington or the Peter Pan. So I think the Wine Steward definitely is a contender, but the price has to be right around 12 to 15 to 1. I do think he will be a little bit longer price if you want to use him in some of the exacta. So who do you kind of think will set the pace at the 6 furlong mark at the 1 mile of the Belmont Stakes? Wine Steward definitely capable of setting the pace. He's got the fractions, especially in the Lexington and a little bit in that Breeders' Futurity race. But that was as a 2-year-old. Now he's facing more developed speed, and we'll see what happens here with the Wine Steward in the Belmont Stakes. Now, the Wine Steward, all 3 of his wins are sprinting, goes back to Manny Franco, and he's also 3rd race off a layoff. I think that's a positive sign for the Wine Steward, number 4 in the Belmont Stakes. Now let's take a look at Antiquarian. He's the 5 horse. Todd Pletcher is looking for his 5th Belmont Stakes, and Antiquarian is the 5 horse. Antiquarian, this will be his 5th race of his career. His sire is Preservationist, who ran some big races at a route, and his sire was Arch, who's a good distance sire, and a lot of his horses developed late. Meanwhile, he did have a win in the slop at the fairgrounds. If we catch a sloppy track on Saturday, keep that in mind with Antiquarian. One thing to keep in mind, he did break through the gate right before the race in the Louisiana Derby. I think that took a little bit of the starch out of him, and I think he made a wide move. So I'm kind of tossing that Louisiana Derby. He's lightly raced. I think he can improve. I think he's holding form, and he does seem to be training well. They kind of came up with a plan after the Louisiana Derby, and he didn't get into the Kentucky Derby. They decided to go to the Peter Pan and then start pointing for the 1.25 mile Belmont Stakes this year at Saratoga. So I do kind of like it when these guys have a plan and then they kind of stick to that plan. Antiquarian, I definitely think is live. And remember, we had an 18-1 shot in the Kentucky Derby, 10-1 shot with Seize the Gray in the Preakness Stakes. Maybe we've got another shot in us. It could be Antiquarian, could be the Wine Steward. You've got horses like Resilience. So maybe this is just one of those years where we don't really get any of the favorites here in the Belmont Stakes. Now, remember, I've got a complete preview up of the Belmont Stakes. I will be doing a tip sheet for the entire Belmont card. If you want to sign up, there'll be a link in the description below, and a link is already in the description for the Belmont Stakes preview. It'll come out Saturday. It'll have my top 3 picks for all 14 races on Belmont Day. So as we continue to move along and we look at Antiquarian, he broke through the gate in the Louisiana Derby, wide trip in the Peter Pan. Definitely, I think you want to take a look and take a second look at Antiquarian here in the Belmont Stakes. Number 6 is going to be Dornoch. Dornoch, of course, he won the Remsen Stakes. He defeated Sierra Leone in that one. I highlighted a couple of things here. You know, one thing I noticed, he's had 3 races this year, and he hasn't really gotten back to his speed figures from last year. Last year, he ran a 90 in the Keeneland race. He ran a 91 in the Remsen race. His 3 speed figures this year, a 90, an 88, and a 75. So he really hasn't gotten back to that form. And Dornoch, you know, he missed a little bit of training time. He got a late start to his workouts this year. And so the Fountain of Youth ended up being a small field with some scratches that day. And then what happened is he went to the Bluegrass. They took him off the pace, but that was a strong Bluegrass. We had Sierra Leone. You had Just a Touch in that race, and he kind of just got outrun down the stretch for Dornoch. Meanwhile, in the Kentucky Derby, he still had the blinkers. He had the 1 post position in a big field and kind of made a little bit of a mid-race move, but then flattened out down the lane. I've always questioned if he really wants 10 furlongs. I think he's more of an 8 to 9 furlong horse. So we'll see if Dornoch can improve his speed figures from his last couple of races. Now, did he peak at 2? And he's had a long campaign last year. Dornoch did run in July of last year. Then he ran in August. Then he ran in October. And then he ran in December. So he may have just kind of peaked last year as a 2-year-old. Can he round back into form? Luis Saez is going to stick with him. He's ridden him in 6 of his 7 career races. So Dornoch keeps his jockey in Luis Saez. Another contender is Protective. Protective, he's a maiden after 4 races, which means he has not won yet. Anybody like Protective in this race? Now, Rodney says Luis Saez is not going to make the mistake that he made in the Derby. I think Rodney thinks maybe Dornoch going to be a little bit closer to the pace here in the Belmont Stakes. Dean says the Wine Steward is a good show bet here for the Belmont Stakes. Now, remember, the big day of Belmont going to have some pick 5s. There's going to be some pick 4s. There is an Acorn Belmont Stakes double Friday into Saturday. So if you like a horse like Just FYI, or maybe the Gorilla Toprita Anna, now in the Acorn Stakes, you can pick a horse in the Belmont Stakes and play an Acorn Belmont double. Protective gets Tyler Gaffleone, trained by Todd Pletcher, who has 3 horses here in the Belmont Stakes. 4 lifetime starts. He ran third in the Peter Pan. He was behind Antiquarian and the Wine Steward. You know, he was kind of trapped at the rail late in that race. The Wine Steward kind of drifted in. Otherwise, I think it might have been a chance that Protective could have maybe run second. Before that, he faced Resilience and ran third in a stakes race in the Wood Memorial. So Protective has ran in 4 stakes races, and he's won $121,000. The next contender is going to be Honor Marie. Honor Marie comes into this race. A lot of people still liking Honor Marie. He gets a new jockey, Ben Curtis, injured in a workout. Florent Giroux is going to be the jockey here in the Belmont Stakes. He's by Honor Code. Now, Honor Code won the Met Mile, ran a huge race in the Whitney Stakes, also ran in the Breeders' Cup Classic to close his career. Overall, he was a good miler to a 1.125 type horse. I wonder if Honor Marie maybe be better as a closing 1 mile, 1 turn horse, or maybe even a 1.125 horse. We'll see if he can get the 1.25 miles. He was shuffled back. He was slammed at the start of the Kentucky Derby by a couple of horses. Started off in 20th place early on after 4 furlongs. He ended up running 8th. He did pass a lot of horses. He ended up finishing 8th in that race. And Honor Marie, his best race was the Kentucky Jockey Club Juvenile. That was back in November. Beat some horses that really out of that race haven't come back to run that well. He did run second to Otto the Conqueror. Otto the Conqueror won the Springboard Mile. Otto the Conqueror did win today at Churchill Downs in an allowance race. Meanwhile, Honor Marie broke his maiden at Churchill Downs. A lot of people liked him coming into the Kentucky Derby. He had trained well. I think a smaller field, maybe a little bit faster pace here with Mindframe and the Wine Steward setting it up for Honor Marie's late run, possibly here in the Belmont Stakes. Another contender to take a look at. Remember this field. We've got D. Wayne Lucas training Seize the Gray. He's looking for his 5th Belmont. Bill Mott, 10-1 on Resilience. Mystic Dan at 5-1. Third in the morning line, the Kentucky Derby winner. The Wine Steward, he ran second place in the Breeders' Cup Futurity at Keeneland. Antiquarian, the Peter Pan winner, 12-1. Dornock at 15-1, the Remsen winner. Protective, a maiden, 20-1 for trainer Todd Pletcher. Honor Marie, 12-1. Of course, the Kentucky Jockey Club winner and 8th in the Kentucky Derby. Sierra Leone, the 9-5 favorite, and Mindframe, your 7-2 favorite in 7-2 second favorite for the Belmont Stakes. That is a look at the entire 10-horse field for the Belmont Stakes. Let's continue to take a look at some of the contenders. Remember now, Sierra Leone, of course, you know, his speed figures. I think a lot of people think that he's ran a 100 Beyer speed figure because of his big finishes in the Risen Star and the Bluegrass, but he got a 95 Beyer in the Risen Star. He got a 98 speed figure in the Bluegrass. He ran a 99 in the Kentucky Derby. Remember, he gets a new jockey in Flavian Pratt, and Sierra Leone is a stretch runner, so he needs a little bit of a pace. He's going to be coming from behind, and Sierra Leone is by Gunrunner. Now, Gunrunner's got a lot of classy runners, but he hasn't really had that breakout performer at a distance at a 1.125 miles, a 1.25 miles. He's had a lot of mile winners. He's had a lot of stakes winners, but Sierra Leone, just kind of interesting. He's by Gunrunner out of a Malibu mare, purchased for $2.3 million. You know, he's lugged in all of his races. They're going to put a new bit on him for this race, and he gets a new jockey, and he draws outside again. I think he's going to make a wide sweeping move into the stretch. But what do you think? Do you think Sierra Leone's a good favorite? Is he the type of horse you want to key in your doubles or your pick 3s or pick 4s? Or are you going to kind of use him maybe as a second pick, or maybe use a second or third pick in this race? Because Sierra Leone definitely going to be the favorite. He's going to be the lowest odd horses in the exactas and the daily doubles. And Sierra Leone, I thought he had every chance to win in the Kentucky Derby. Siggy Mendoza says Mystic Dan likely to get a nice trip again. Yeah, I think so. He saved ground in the Kentucky Derby. He had an inside trip in the Preakness, went outside for the drive, just didn't finish it off. He gets an extra week here And I think he's been probably training better for the Belmont Stakes than he did for the Preakness Stakes. But, I think the key question for Sierra Leone is he had every chance to win that Kentucky Derby, and the final quarter was only 26 seconds, and the pace was fast, and he just couldn't get it done. He was kind of bumping up against Forever Young in that race down the lane. So, I don't think you want to take too short of a price on Sierra Leone in the Belmont Stakes. I'm going to play him in a double, and I'll probably use him in my exacta box. I do have my Belmont preview up online if you want to watch the entire preview. The final contender is Mindframe. Mindframe, of course, 2 for 2, a 13-length win on the Florida Derby Day. Of course, a 7-length win on the Kentucky Derby Day. So a lot of people have seen this horse run. He's by Constitution, purchased for $600,000 at the Keeneland September sale. And of course, Todd Pletcher trains. He's ridden by Irad Ortiz. Irad Ortiz has ridden him in both his starts, and he jumps on him here. Now, I think his natural speed is going to bring him to the lead, as Mindframe, definitely the type of horse that has natural speed. The one thing about the Churchill Downs allowance win, even though he has to pick up weight here, his fractions were a little bit slow, 6 furlongs for the 113, 49 for the 4 furlongs. And I think they're definitely going to be going a little bit on the slower side here. A faster side, I think they're going to be going 112, maybe 112 and change, but I don't think he'll get by with that 113 and change. Now, he does have the fastest speed figure in the race. He got a 103 in his maiden win. He got a 97 in his second lifetime race. So Mindframe has speed, but what do you think about his chances? Do you think that he can go 1.25 miles? He's got to go from 118 pounds to 126 pounds. And the one thing I do like about him, he has run twice. He's run at 2 different tracks, but now he's got to go to that third racetrack, and he's got to go 1.25 miles. So Mindframe, 8 more pounds, no Lasix. That's a good point, Jose. If you notice, Mindframe did use Lasix in both of his races. He used Lasix in his maiden race at Gulfstream, Lasix in his race at Churchill Downs. So now he's got to go 1.25 miles, no Lasix, and he's probably going to face a faster pace. So Jose, good comment on Mindframe. He loses the Lasix, picks up the 8 pounds. Now, if you notice, another horse that used Lasix in his first start of the year was Seize the Gray. Seize the Gray did use Lasix in the first race at Oaklawn Park back in February. Then he went off the Lasix. He picked up 123 pounds in the Bluegrass. And overall, it looks like Seize the Gray hasn't been hindered by that. But Seize the Gray, he did have some races last year without Lasix as a 2-year-old. He did have a juvenile foundation. Mindframe did not race as a 2-year-old. So we'll see if Mindframe is the type of horse that, can he just win on talent alone? That's really the big question with Mindframe here for the Belmont Stakes. Now, Irad Ortiz has won 2 Belmont Stakes. He did win with Creator. He did win with Mo Donegal. So, he is going to ride Mindframe in this race. Now it's time for you to give me your picks. Who's your top pick in the Belmont Stakes? Who are you playing for your exacta? My top pick is going to be Resilience in the Belmont Stakes. I like the fact that he was able to rate just a little bit off the pace in the Wood Memorial. I thought he made a big move in the Kentucky Derby. He was wide and then made a mid-race move for Resilience. And then also, I like the fact that he was able to make a nice move while running wide in the Kentucky Derby. Kind of faded a little bit late. You do have some questions with Resilience about going 1.25 miles, but overall, I like Resilience. Sierra Leone's going to be my second pick. He's going to be a closer. He's going to get pace to run at in this race. And Sierra Leone, definitely the type of horse that you can count on to make his move. You can make the case that he could be 5 for 5, but you could also make the case that he could be 3 for 5. He maybe could have lost the Risen Star Stakes, and he ran down the speed in the Bluegrass Stakes, but it's always tough to, especially consistently with a closer's running style. So my straight exact is going to be Resilience over Sierra Belmont Stakes. Siggy Mendoza is going to go Antiquarian over Mystic Dan and Resilience for his exacta. And, I see a lot of people picking Sierra Leone, and then they're picking the speed to be second. So they're picking either Seize the Gray or Mindframe in the exacta. So I think Antiquarian will be about 12 to 1. I think the Wine Steward will be a shot. Horses that I really question, Dornoch, I just don't think he's improving, and I don't think he has the speed to take the lead in this race. Seize the Gray, his two best races now really are in the Saratoga slop race and his maiden, and then the Preakness muddy race track. They unsealed the racetrack for the Preakness, and Seize the Gray, I think, was able to take advantage of that on Preakness Day. So that is a look at the Preakness field for 2024. Ken says he's going to go with Seize the Gray, Dornoch, and Honor Marie for his exacta box. And remember, I will be doing a tip sheet for the Belmont Day, all 14 races. You can find it in the description below, a link. I'll be posting that, and also on the channel, any of the videos, it's got the link. Having the top 3 picks for all 14 races. Of course, 14 races on Saturday, including the Manhattan race on race 11. You've got the Met Mile. What about the Met Mile? You've got National Treasure, last year's Preakness winner, taking on White Abarrio, the Whitney winner last year and the Breeders' Cup Classic winner, and then Hoist the Gold, the Cigar Mile winner, and then the Manhattan race, a chance to play some doubles from the Manhattan, a mile and 3/16 on the turf, into the Belmont Stakes, which is race number 12 on Saturday. So those are the 10 horses for the Belmont Stakes. Again, looking at the morning line odds, you've got Seize the Gray at 8 to 1, Resilience at 10 to 1, Mystic Dan at 5 to 1, and then you've got the Wine Steward at 15 to 1, Antiquarian at 12 to 1, then Dornoch at 15 to 1, Protective at 20 to 1, Honor Marie at 12 to 1, and Sierra Leone. Now let's take a look at wanted to do one more look at Seize the Gray's final workout. This is him last workout, going 6 furlongs and 113. That was a nice workout for Seize the Gray, I thought, to get ready for this race. So I wanted to take another look at the Met Mile real quickly here. And, the 6-horse field, Castle Chaos was second in the Carter Stakes. And of course, he ran right behind Post Time in that race. National Treasure won the Pegasus World Cup, ran off the board. And you take a look at Post Time, he's 8 for 10 lifetime, lost to Messier the last time out in the Westchester. Blazing Sevens, the Preakness Stakes second place finisher last year, ran third in the Bluegrass Stakes. And Hoist the Gold, kind of an in and outer, 5th in his last race, the Churchill Downs Stakes, the grade 1. White Abarrio, a winner of the Breeders' Cup Classic, a winner of the Whitney Stakes. And last year, he ran third in the Met Mile. Overall, his best race is probably 6 furlongs to a mile. A mile and a quarter was stretching it last year in the Breeders' Cup, but I do expect with Irad Ortiz, White Abarrio to run a strong race in the Met Mile. Now, taking a look, one final comment from Roger. Mindframe going to be a freak horse. He could be first or second. And Jose says, thanks for your time. He's going with Seize the Gray with Sierra Leone exacta box. So that is a look at the Belmont Stakes 2024. It's going to be Saturday, 1.25 miles. They're going to be running it at Saratoga this year. 10 horses entered in the Belmont Stakes. We've got Kentucky Derby Mystic Dan, the winner. We've got the Preakness winner, Seize the Gray. Honor Marie comes back from the Kentucky Derby. And we've also got a horse like Mindframe, 2 for 2 lifetime, stretching out in distance. Dean says Mystic Dan will likely go to the rail, cutting off Seize the Gray and Resilience. We'll see. You know, he's had rail trips in his last couple of races. We'll see if he can work out a nice trip with his regular jock, Brian Hernandez, who has ridden Mystic Dan in some of his big wins and his big races. That's a look at the Belmont Stakes 2024. Remember, we're going to have one more update on Friday for the Belmont Stakes. The complete Belmont Stakes preview is up. Make sure to watch that and sign up for the Belmont Stakes tip sheet on Saturday morning. It'll come out a half hour before the first post. Top 3 picks for all 14 races. Good luck on the Belmont Stakes 2024.